They picked up the signal just after midnight. A small tremor, short, shallow, harmless. Except Tunnel 47 had been sealed since 1987. The seismic sensor was one of thousands buried across old coal country. Most hadn't worked in decades. But this one, buried deep in the Appalachian spine, flickered to life for 6 seconds, long enough to register movement, temperature, and pressure. Then it went dead. It shouldn't have activated at all. The power source had expired in 2001, yet the log was clear. Something down there had shifted. Not just stone, not pressure, not water. Heat, movement, direction downward. The dispatch center in Raleigh didn't ask questions. They sent in SRT-6, a 3-person rescue and recon unit stationed for environmental collapse events. Not because they believed someone was alive. Because the sensor sent back a word. Just one. Help. Not Morse, not code, not software error. Typed, logged, in plain English. The team arrived 4 hours later. 3 of them. No insignia. No names. Internally, they used call signs. Red, team lead, glass, comms, and medical. Hale, drone engineer, and geotech. They drove an unmarked military transport. Parked at the old access trail. Unloaded in silence. Tunnel 47 had been buried under 300 tons of stone, dirt, and reinforced steel plating. A landslide triggered by illegal drilling. 19 miners died, none recovered. The tunnel entrance wasn't even visible anymore. But glass found the ventilation shaft, sealed with welded bars and red tape that had long since faded to white. They didn't go through the gate. They cut through the earth beside it. 6 hours of excavation. Dirt turned to shale. Shale turned to bedrock. Then open air. The shaft was still there. Intact, no collapse, no cave-in, just a narrow black hole stretching into the hill like a throat. And it breathed, not air, just pressure, subtle, like the tunnel was exhaling after being alone for too long. Red did final checks, oxygen good, radios linked, shoulder cams active. They descended by cable and ladder. No light inside, no sound. As they reached the shaft floor, Hale turned on his shoulder lamp. The beam barely penetrated the dust. The walls were coal black and smooth, too smooth, like they'd been melted into shape. No mold, Glass noted, brushing the wall. Too dry for rot. Red took point. The tunnel ran deeper than expected. Map said Tunnel 47 ended 120 meters in. This one kept going. After 20 minutes of descent, the tunnel changed. The air grew warmer, not hot, but alive somehow. Every few minutes the team felt a thrum in their boots, like distant thunder or something moving miles below. Then the walls began to curve, not just physically, inconsistently, like the architecture wasn't designed but remembered. They came across the first artifact near what should have been a dead end. A hard hat. White, clean, sitting in the center of the path. Not buried, not dusty, fresh. Hale scanned for heat. None. Glass approached and lifted it slowly. Inside, folded like a note, a photo. Color. Crisp. It was Glass. In the photo, she stood outside a house she hadn't seen in 10 years. Wearing clothes she no longer owned. Behind her, the window of the house was black. But if you looked too long, it felt like someone was smiling inside it. Glass dropped the photo. Nope. No way. That's not real. Hale picked it up, turned it over. The back was blank. Red said nothing. They moved on. 1 hour in, the mine began to change. It got quieter. Not silent, quiet. As if sound had somewhere to go now. When Hale spoke, the walls absorbed his voice. Glass started humming just to prove she still could. But even that faded after a few steps. Then her voice came back. Not from her own mouth, from the wall behind them. Same hum, same pitch. A few seconds delayed, like the tunnel had learned the song. They set up the first camp beside a collapsed side shaft. Hale sent out the drone. It flew 30 meters, then froze mid-air. Not crashed, stopped, like gravity had forgotten how to work. Then its camera feed turned on and showed Hale's face. Not now, not live, sleeping, in a bed he'd never seen before. Beneath the pillow, a small black rock pulsing with light. Hale yanked his visor off. The drone dropped, stone dead. Red made the call. Move deeper. They had to find the source of the signal, the word, the help. But already, Glass was losing it. She said the mind felt like being watched from behind your eyes. Like it knew who she was, what she regretted, what she feared. She said she kept seeing herself standing in corners, not moving, just listening. Then the floor ahead of them shifted. A wave of dust, a low tremor. Stone cracked. Something rose from beneath the surface. Not a creature. A metal chair bolted into the rock. And in the chair, a man, mummified, breathing, wires running from his spine into the floor. He turned his head, slow, mechanical, and smiled. You're new. He didn't blink, didn't twitch, didn't breathe, at least not like a human. His chest rose in long, deliberate intervals. Each inhale took nearly a minute. Each exhale longer. A low wheeze accompanied every breath, like air forcing its way through wet stone. The wires in his spine pulsed faintly. 3 of them, thick, metallic, fused into bone. Not surgical, not clean. The skin around them was grown over, like the body had accepted them decades ago. Red approached first, one hand near his sidearm. "Sir, are you injured?" The man didn't answer. He just stared, right at her, like he already knew what she was going to say. Glass circled slowly, scanning the rock. The chair wasn't just metal, it was part of the tunnel, fused into the floor like it had grown from it. There were no bolts, no welds, just veins of steel running into the stone, and underneath the chair, barely visible, a carved emblem. A spiral broken in 3 places, old, deep, not made with a chisel, burned into the floor. She took a photo. The lens fogged immediately. The man finally spoke. "You shouldn't have come." His voice was dry, not from disuse, like something mimicking sound from inside his throat. "We got a signal," Red replied. "Said help. Was it you?" The man didn't answer. He tilted his head slightly toward Hale. "You work with machines." "Yeah." The man smiled weakly. "Tell me, what happens when you leave one running too long?" Hale hesitated. "Depends on the machine." "Some seize up," the man said, still smiling. "Some overheat, others start building." "Building what?" "Memory." He shifted in the chair. The wires in his back tensed. The stone beneath his feet cracked slightly, like something alive was stretching below. "You brought light," he said, eyes now on Glass. She dimmed her shoulder lamp instinctively. "That's good. It hates light." Red leaned in. "What does?" The man's eyes flicked toward the ceiling. "It," he whispered. "The thing this mine was carved through." "You mean rock, stone?" He shook his head. "Beneath that. Older than stone." He leaned forward now, every bone in his spine creaking like old furniture. "This was not a mine. It was a mouth. We just didn't know it yet." Glass stepped back. "What's your name?" she asked. The man blinked slowly, then smiled. "Glass." She froze. Her hands curled tight around her tablet. "You're not him," she said. "No." Red moved between them. "You know her name. What else do you know?" The man's voice changed, just slightly. Lower, warmer. "You left a girl behind, didn't you? A daughter." Red didn't speak. 8 years old. Her name starts with... "Don't," Red said sharply. The man smiled wider. "She dreams about you sometimes." Hale drew his sidearm. The man didn't flinch. "There are others," he said. "I wasn't the first. I'm just the one that stayed." "Why?" Hale asked. The man's mouth trembled. "Because if you stayed long enough, it stops hurting." Suddenly the wires in his back twitched. The wall behind him shuddered. Stone peeled back like old skin, revealing teeth. Not bone, not literal, but the shape of teeth. Impressions in the wall. Smooth, polished, perfect rows. The tunnel exhaled. The lights flickered. Then the man slumped. Glass rushed forward, checked his pulse. Still there, but weak. Then her comms unit buzzed, one word repeating. A mechanical voice, hers. "Help, help, help." Red grabbed her mic. "No signals being sent out." Glass opened her tablet. The log showed nothing. No outgoing message. Only one thing had changed. Under transmitting user, it now said, "Glass active." She closed it. "No more talking," Red said. "We get what we can, we get out." Hale nodded, but didn't move. He was staring at the wall. His own face had formed in the stone. Faint. Just an outline. But unmistakable. Mouth open, like it was screaming. They backed away from the chair. The man didn't move again. But as they turned, his voice followed. "The longer you stay, the more it remembers." They moved past the man in the chair without another word. He didn't resist, didn't speak, didn't breathe again. Just sat like a marionette whose strings had been cut, wires humming softly in the stone behind him. Still smiling, still listening. The tunnel beyond him descended at a sharper angle, rough-hewn, twisting unnaturally, like it had never been carved by human hands. There were no mine supports here, no rails, just solid stone curving slowly into a spiral. Their boots crunched over coal dust that shimmered faintly in their lights. Not reflective, reactive. With each step, the ground gave off a soft pulse, like stepping across the ribs of something asleep. Glass tightened her shoulder straps. "Scanner says this passage doesn't exist," she muttered. Red didn't look back. "It exists now." 15 minutes in, the walls started changing. First the texture. Stone smoothed out, shimmered faintly with moisture. Then the temperature, rising steadily. And then the carvings. Symbols at first, not glyphs, not language, just patterns. Every 5 feet a spiral, not identical, all slightly different. Some loose, chaotic, others tight and perfect. Some upright, some upside down. Hale stopped to scan one of them. The infrared returned 0 temperature, not cold. 0. No heat, no reflection, no molecular activity at all. It was like they weren't seeing carvings. They were seeing holes in reality. At the 400-meter mark, they heard a sound. A metal strike, like hammer on stone. Rhythmic, distant, and it was coming from below. They paused, listened. 4 seconds between each strike. Precise, unchanging. And underneath it, if you listen too long, whispers, not words, not even voices, just the shape of language. They descended further. No talking now. Even Glass was quiet. The scanner started flickering with false feedback, brief flashes of their own vitals, then static, then nothing. Every tool was being overwritten. Not jammed, not broken, rewritten. At 600 meters, the walls opened into a new chamber. The size of a cathedral, perfectly round, 30 feet high. Black stone throughout, smoother than glass. No natural formations, no tool marks. dead center, a pit, wide, capped by a metal grate. Dozens of wires ran from it into the walls, each one pulsing softly, in rhythm with something breathing below. Glass knelt beside it. The grate was warm, too warm, like an engine had just shut down underneath. She put her hand on it. It pulsed once, and her nose began to bleed. Hale touched one of the wires with the tip of a gloved finger. "Organic," he whispered. "It's not copper, not steel." He scraped a sample into a vial. The wire twitched twice, then retracted slightly into the wall. Red circled the pit. On the far wall, above eye level, a plaque. Metal, polished, still clean. Glass read it aloud. "Spiral interface, Unit 7. Warning. Cognitive degradation may occur during active link. Limit, thought formation, remain empty." She stepped back. "Remain empty," she repeated. Red's eyes narrowed. "This wasn't just a mine?" "No," Glass said. "It was a test site." Suddenly the grate shifted. No noise, just movement, like something heavy rolling underneath. Dust blew outward from the pit. Then the whispers returned. Louder this time, and this time they had tone, like mimicry. Red raised her rifle. "Glass, what's behind us?" She turned and froze. Where the tunnel had been, only blackness remained. Not just dark, gone. The tunnel was no longer there. Glass took a step back, then another. But her feet didn't echo. She looked down. The floor beneath her wasn't stone anymore. It was skin. Charred, scabbed, stretching out in all directions. She screamed. The walls pulsed, briefly, and the normal tunnel was back, like the mine had blinked. Red pulled her close. "You good?" "No," she breathed. "It saw me." Then the voice came again, not from the pit, not from the walls, from inside their headsets. Each of them heard it. Different voices, same message. Red heard her daughter. Glass heard herself. Hale heard a drill instructor who died in 2021, and they all said the same thing. "Sit down." Glass turned toward the grate. A chair now sat in front of it. It hadn't been there before, but it looked identical to the one the miner had been in. Smooth steel arms, curved back, bolts fusing it to the floor. And next to it, a fresh hard hat. Their team's logo still printed on the side, but SRT-6 had never issued those in white. Red took a step forward. "Don't," Hale warned. Red stopped. "Why is there a chair?" Glass swallowed. "Because someone has to stay." The walls pulsed again. Something deep below shifted. The whispers were forming new sounds now, closer to names. They heard Red, Glass, Hale, "Sit, sit, sit, sit." Glass began shaking. "Why is it saying that?" Hale checked his vitals, spiked. Elevated stress, heart rate through the roof. Then the HUD glitched. For one frame, barely visible, his name tag on the display changed. HALEINPUT. The whispers grew louder. Not angry, not commanding, inviting. They were inside something that was hungry. But it didn't want their bodies. It wanted their minds. And it was learning faster the longer they stayed. Red gave the order. "We're leaving." Glass hesitated. "We don't know if the tunnel's even there anymore." "We're leaving anyway." They turned away from the pit. No one looked back, and the chair behind them whispered, "See you soon." They walked in silence. No one asked how the tunnel behind them had reappeared. No one mentioned the chair, the whispers, the plaque, the fact that the air now had a taste, metallic like old batteries and whetstone. They just moved, and the mine watched. The spiral tunnel led back into a narrower corridor, straight this time older, less smooth. The walls were jagged again, fractured, the earth bleeding rust and coal dust from deep seams. The light from their shoulder lamps seemed weaker now, eaten at the edges. Glass stopped walking. "I think the walls are closer," Red turned. "What? They weren't this tight before." I swear she was right. The corridor had narrowed, just enough to make them notice. Hale reached out and touched one side. It was warm, breathing warm, not geological. And then it shivered. Red raised her weapon. "Move, now!" They pushed forward, pace quickening, and then footsteps, not theirs, not an echo. Footsteps coming from ahead. Glass froze. "Someone's in here." "No one else came in," Red replied. "There's no second team." Then the footsteps stopped, and a voice spoke from the dark. "Red?" Red's stomach turned to ice. That voice hadn't spoken to her in over a year. Her daughter. She stepped forward against her own instinct, and from the black ahead came a figure, small, unarmed. A little girl, maybe 9 or 10, in jeans and a blue hoodie. Her shoes were covered in dust, her eyes wide. "Where have you been?" the girl asked. "I waited. It got dark." Glass stepped in front of Red. "That's not real." But the girl looked directly at her. "You weren't there either. You were bleeding." She lifted one arm. It was flayed open, skin peeled back to bone. Glass stepped away. Hale raised his weapon. "We keep going. Don't stop." They moved past the figure. The girl didn't follow. She just stood in place, growing paler with each step, until her skin turned the same color as the stone. Until she was part of it, just another shape in the wall. They pressed forward into a new chamber. This one was familiar. 3 cots, 2 duffels, 1 supply crate. It was their camp. But they'd never seen this room before. It wasn't the same camp they'd left behind. The cot sheets weren't wrinkled. The duffels were zipped. Everything was in place, as if waiting for them, as if expecting them. Red turned her comms back on. "Command, this is SRT-6. We need evac coordinates. Respond." Static. Then a voice. "Roger that, SRT-6. Stand by for retrieval window." She froze. It was her voice. Slightly off pitch, slightly out of sync. Glass checked her comm. She disconnected it. "It's spoofing our network." Then Hale spoke. "I think it's learning us faster." He stood still, staring at the walls. They were beginning to ripple, not like water, like data being rewritten. The surface of the stone was forming textures, objects, faces, ideas. One patch now resembled a handprint. Another, a skull. Another was Hale himself, perfectly shaped, his eyes open, mouth wide. Inside it, a single word, etched in jagged lines. "Exit." Red looked away. "It's a trap." Glass touched one of the walls. "Red, what if it's not mimicking?" "What? What if it's not replaying? Not projecting?" She looked around the room. "What if it's building with us? With what we think? The cots, the packs, the girl, the chair. Not illusions, reflections." Hale walked to the far side of the chamber. There, tucked into the stone like a fossil, was a photograph. He pulled it free. It was folded. On the back, a note in his handwriting. "Keep your thoughts small. Don't give it anything. Don't make it you." Then the ceiling cracked. Stone fell in sheets, dust choking the chamber. From the new hole above, something began to lower down. A shape, round, breathing, covered in damp black skin. Tubes coiled around it like veins. It pulsed in rhythm with the pit from before. It didn't move toward them. It just watched. Glass raised her scanner. For 1 second, it worked. One word on the readout. "Mirror. Backtrack now," Red ordered. "We find the shaft. We climb." They ran. and with every step, the tunnel behind them changed. Walls curved, floors cracked, shapes emerged from stone. A hallway of mouths opened around them, each whispering in familiar voices. Where were you? You left me. You promised. You lied. The team ran faster, but the mine wasn't trying to stop them. It was cataloging them, one fear, one memory, one name at a time. They reached a fork they didn't remember. Left, dry air. Right, flickering light. Left, Red said, but Hale moved right. Wait, Glass shouted, but it was too late. He stepped into the light and vanished. Not into blackness, into white, pure white. For a split second, Glass saw him, standing in a living room. Sunlight, a woman cooking, children laughing. Then, gone. No trace, no sound, just stone. Red grabbed Glass's shoulder. Move. She turned and saw her own face staring back at her from the wall, smiling. They ran until there was no breath left in them, until their shoulder lights dimmed, until even their thoughts felt loud enough to echo. The mine no longer looked like a mine. The stone had softened, visibly flexing with each tremor. The walls rippled with pressure, dark veins glowing just beneath the surface. Everything was wrong. The color of the stone, the shape of the air, the direction of gravity. Glass thought for a second that she was running upside down. Then it didn't matter anymore. They reached a wide chamber, new, spherical, like the one from earlier, but darker. At its center stood another chair, empty. Wires curled around it like roots. Above it, etched into the ceiling. Input accepted. Red turned. This is it. Glass shook her head. It's not an interface, it's a filter. What? Glass stepped closer. Her voice cracked, exhausted. It's not asking for control. It doesn't want to use us. It wants to choose us. Red stared at the chair. Choose for what? Glass answered without looking up. To leave. The floor beneath them shifted, slow and deliberate, like a gear locking into place. And then from the walls, something began to form. Not words, not figures, choices. 1, a staircase leading up. 2, a tunnel that spiraled further down. Both impossible, both glowing faintly. Artificial light from nowhere. Glass looked at Red. That wasn't there a second ago. Red scanned the wall beside the tunnel. There, drawn in graphite, was her own handwriting. I went down. 3 words. Fresh. Glass turned toward the staircase. I'm going up. Red didn't stop her, but neither moved, because the chair was still waiting, still pulsing, still warm. Something in the air had changed. A quiet pull. Not in the body, in the mind. A suggestion like a scent that someone here had already made the decision. From behind them, a voice spoke. I'm still here. They turned. Hale. Alive, but altered. His eyes were black, not bruised, not hollow. Fully black, glassy, reflective, no whites remaining. Veins stood out along his jaw, crawling up his throat. His oxygen tank was gone. His comms unit melted into his vest. I figured it out, he said softly. It doesn't trap you. Red raised her weapon. It learns you, remakes you. It took what I was and filled in the rest. He stepped closer. But I'm fine now. I remember everything, even things that weren't mine. Glass backed away. Hale smiled. You don't get it yet. The mine isn't the danger. It's the invitation. The walls behind him began to shift. Not melt, reform. Stone folded like clay, reshaping itself into images, snapshots from Red and Glass's lives. A burning truck, a sleeping infant, a hospital room full of black liquid. And finally, an image of each of them sitting in the chair, wires running from their skulls like hair. Red pulled the trigger. One shot, center mass. Hale didn't move. He didn't even blink. The round struck something, but not flesh. It hit the air around him, stopped, dropped. He laughed, and when he did, dust fell from his mouth. "You think you can shoot an idea?" he whispered. Then the floor opened beneath him. He dropped, without falling, like the earth accepted him. Then silence, just the heartbeat of the mine pulsing in the walls. Glass sat down on the floor. "I don't know where we are anymore." Red didn't speak. She was staring at the chair. Its lights were brighter now, almost humming. "You think it'll let us go?" she asked. Glass answered slowly. "I don't think that's the goal. I think it's going to pick one of us." They waited. No voices now, no illusions, only the gentle throb of stone and the quiet, electric breath of something beneath them, listening. Then a sound, not behind them, not above, inside them. A low note like a tuning fork vibrated in their skulls, and they both heard a voice, their own voice. "You may exit now." Glass turned toward the spiral tunnel. Gone. The staircase? Gone. Just the chair, still humming, still warm, and now it had a screen, lines of text scrolled across it, printed in green against black. 3 consciousness streams detected. 2 fragmented. 1 stable. Choose format. Leave. Remain. Your mind will be returned to state 0. Red stepped toward the screen. "What does that mean?" Glass didn't answer. She was holding her tablet, staring at a new message she hadn't typed. "You are the memory it wants." The ground beneath the chair split open. The spiral symbol began to spin, slowly, physically rotating, like a gear unlocking in stone. The chair tilted back, inviting. Glass stepped forward. The screen blinked. Input confirmed. 1 record accepted. Begin transfer. "No," Red shouted, grabbing her arm, but Glass smiled. She looked peaceful. "I'm already part of it." Then she sat down. The wires rose from the floor, gentle as smoke, slid into her skin. Her eyes didn't close, but the lights behind them went out. The mine exhaled. Everything froze. Stone, light, sound. Red stood in total silence. And then, the tunnel behind her reappeared. The entrance shaft, real, reachable, lit from above by distant, cold starlight. She walked, alone, upward. Didn't look back, didn't speak, didn't feel relief. Just movement. At the surface, the wind hit her face like a slap. The van was gone. The hill was quiet. Night sky full of unfamiliar stars. No communications, no rescue beacon, no footprints in the dirt. She reached into her jacket pocket. Inside, a single item, Glass's ID badge. But the name wasn't Glass. It was hers. And underneath, printed in tiny letters, record accepted.